19 minutes after 10 now, Tasmania Talks. I'm Brian Carlton. Hope you're well. 1300 001012 is the number. Shortly, I'll be getting to touch the, believe it or not, the Emirates Melbourne Cup, which is on tour. Can't believe that. I'm still sort of shaking myself a little bit. Having said that, though, we've been talking about medicinal cannabis and the action of the Victorian government to essentially fast-track its growth and production into a range of different drug products that can be used to treat a whole range of conditions in people who, many of whom are already using it. One of the people I spoke to, in fact, the one who sort of kicked it off on this show was Lynn Cleaver. As you know, I, about an hour ago, spoke with Lara Giddings, the Shadow Attorney General here in Tas, and she's urging the government to push on with a similar thing. Lynn's been listening and has called in, and I appreciate her doing so. Lynn, hi, how are you going?
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Look, I'm really well. How you must be? How are you feeling today after all this? There's been some movement, which is good news, but not quite where you need it to be at the moment.
Oh, it's fabulous news for a lot of people, but it's not enough. It's just dipping a toe in the ocean. You know, there's thousands of people that need relief, straight away. So, and to say that it's not going to happen until 2017 in Victoria, there's a lot of suffering going to happen between now and then.
So how would you like to see the issue dealt with in the interim? Because this is really the fastest moving government around the country on this issue, and the fact that they're not going to be able to do anything until at least 2017 would look, potentially we're waiting 2 years, aren't we, from now? Okay. In that 2 years, what can the Victorian government do, the Tas government, New South Wales, governments right around the country? How can we do it?
To simply appreciate, what's already been done. Like we keep hearing Mr. Ferguson talk about a science-based approach. The science is in, and it's currently being undertaken, trials and studies in other jurisdictions. So to go ahead and expect suffering Tasmanians to wait for further trials and research is just cruel.
Okay.
He can throw all the goodwill at it he likes, but until he does something concrete for suffering Tasmanians, it's nothing more than empty promises to desperate people.
Look, the idea that a science-based approach, if you take that literally, which is what Mr. Ferguson said, we're looking at the trial to actually grow the marijuana plants, the cannabis plants in their various forms. They would all need to be tested for their active ingredients and potency, etc. Then we have to go through the process of developing the actual drugs, the actual medicines that will be taken by the patients. So they need to be developed. Right, so you've got a process involved in that.
Yep.
And then once you've got those drugs, you start doing the things like clinical trials. Now, a clinical trial, for anybody who's followed these sort of things before, can run from anywhere from 2 to 5 years. And then there's usually a year's worth of assessment of the outcome. Then it goes out to peer review, which can take another year, 2 years to come. I mean, we're talking potentially a decade. Not good enough, is it?
No. And what will happen is you'll still have thousands of Tasmanians breaking the law, doing exactly what we're doing, offering our son a homegrown, healthy herb to treat his conditions, not just epilepsy, other things as well, his pain. And, so to wait 10 years is just ridiculous, and it's cruel, and there should be a way to make it happen much more quickly. And as Stephen Jones said yesterday, we need to stop prosecuting people that are using cannabis. We also need to stop prosecuting the people that grow it to supply it to suffering Australians.
Look, I do recognise it's a legal grey area. For example, if we were to pass some sort of legislation here in Tassie or indeed anywhere else that allowed you to grow for medicinal purposes, then we have to define any legislation. Obviously needs definitions. So, what is a medical reason? Who has a medical reason? Who determines whether the medical reason is valid? Who makes the assessment that the substance can be effective in treating whatever condition that is? You can see what I mean. It's there's a lot of grey in there.
You would certainly hope that it's not our politicians doing all of that, Brian, which currently they are. Our politicians are determining all of those factors.
Well, that's exactly what they'll do. They kind of have to, in a way. I do understand why a politician who's ultimately responsible for passing legislation that will, or introducing legislation to achieve a certain thing, if there are complications from that, it falls back on them in at least a responsibility way, if not, they're not legally responsible or anything.
I appreciate that, but I've never gone to a politician to seek out treatment for epilepsy before, and I'm not about to start going to a politician to seek out treatment for epilepsy now either. I understand what you're saying about the legislation, but we need our specialists and our doctors and our pharmacists to become educated on cannabis medicines as well, so that they can come to our politicians and give them sound advice.
Oh, no, look, Lynn, I'm absolutely on your side on this one. There's just no argument whatsoever, but I can, from a legislator's point of view, and given the current status of marijuana. Now, look, if marijuana was not an illegal product right now, this wouldn't be an issue.
No.
Okay. So I do understand why after 5 decades of war on drugs, mantra, or the way people perceive cannabis these days is as a result of that. We've been conditioned over a couple of generations to see it as a harmful drug, and to convince politicians to turn that notion on its head and start using the same substance to treat a range of diagnosed diseases and conditions it is a kind of big call. I do get that, but there has to be a way that they can exempt you from criminal prosecution for the usage you're putting it to.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't disagree with that. All right, then we'll keep up the good fight tomorrow. My plan is I have a long-standing, and it is a long-standing arrangement to have a chat with Michael Ferguson, the Health Minister, and I will be talking with him about this.
Lovely.
Okay, thanks, Lynn.
Cool, thanks, Brian.
Appreciate it. Good on you. Mother of Jeremy, who's 24 years old, uses medical cannabis. She grows it and makes it into a tincture, a liquid which he can swallow, and it works. If you saw the pictures of Jeremy on the telly last night, have a look at the video that's on our website of some pictures of Jeremy prior to his use of medicinal cannabis, and then have a look at him on the telly last night. It's two different people. This is a young man with a life now, whereas he didn't have one before. And I would argue a mum and a dad and brothers and sisters who've got their lives back to a certain extent too, because this is not just about the patients; it's about the people who care for them. Anybody who's a parent, I'm a parent. If there was something wrong with your kid and you needed a treatment for it, and every possible treatment through the usual channels has failed, you would do anything. I would absolutely do anything. I completely get why Lynn's doing what she's doing, and I just urge the lawmakers, I urge the politicians, don't think about this issue as a politician. Don't think about this issue as a lawmaker. Think about this as a parent. Imagine it was your kid. What would you do? Think about it like that. Then we might get some action.